Well, good morning. My name's Ross, and I'm the student minister here at Hope Anglican Church. It's great that we can join together, even if it's online, and it's especially good that we can get in and listen to God's word. So why don't we do that? I'm gonna start us off just before we get to our passage. I want to tell you some phrases, okay? What do you think is going on here? Striving for excellence, virtus, etagris. I can't even say that. It's so hard. Empowering learners. A friendly place to learn. What do you reckon all those things have in common? Well, they're all mottos. They're all school mottos, actually. And empowering learners, I've heard, is actually the motto for the new school at Denham Court. What's a motto, though? It's just a short saying that's to try and capture what a school or an institution wants to characterize and teach all of its community, and maybe to send out their graduates with a way to live. It's a principle, you could say, a principle to live by. And can I ask you today, is there a motto that you live by? Well, one of the strangest mottos that's got to be out there was the original motto that Google had for its teams. The motto is this: don't be evil. That's a pretty aspirational one, you got to say. But again, what would your motivation, your motto be? Well, today as we jump into the book of Titus, we're going to see that God's motto for our lives and what he wants to teach us. It's a gospel motto, and it shapes gospel lives. Last week, Cam showed us what the truth of the gospel impacts how we live every day. And we're going to keep seeing that this time with the grace of God as the focus. So how do you think the grace of God not only saves us, but also shapes our lives? Well, I'm going to pray before we have a look at God's word. Father God, please help us to hear your word today. Amen. So we're going to kick off by looking at the second half of our passage. It really gets at what the gospel is all about. So jump down to verse 11. For the grace of God has appeared with salvation for all people. The gospel is this: that even though we don't deserve it, that's what grace means, God is willing to save us. We don't deserve the life that we have, the joy that we get, the beauty that we see, the relationships that we love, the good things. We don't deserve them because we've actually rejected God. We've chased after anything and everything that this world can offer us, and we've turned our back on him and said, I'll live my own way, thanks. You can just jog on. And actually our world and our community, families, environment, relationships, workplaces, our country, they all suffer for it. And wars, cancer, homelessness, racism, greed, abuse, it's all because of the collective effect and consequence of our rejection of God, the God who created us and our world. Let me show you something. This is a video of, we can see some fruit decaying, it's rotting. It's pretty disgusting, really, isn't it? And this is the state that we are in and that God should have left us in. He should have just left us in the mess. But, there's always a but with God. But despite this, the grace of God appeared. It's incredible news, actually. And we might have some questions like, when did God's grace appear? What does it mean that God's grace has appeared? Well, the grace that appeared, the grace of God, is Jesus. Jesus coming to the rescue. It's actually where all our superhero comics and our Disney princesses get their massive reveal moments from, isn't it? When at the last minute, so-and-so appears and saves the day. Well, Jesus is the original hero. Jesus came in history, and he came to save and rescue us. What God's offering is not just life improvement. It's offering a final fix. He's offering a solution that undoes all the brokenness and evil in our world and even in our lives. So this is the gospel. Grace is beginning to undo the mess. Jesus is beginning to undo the mess. And so to get back to our fruit and veg, he's kind of doing it in reverse. He's bringing it back, restoring and making things new. This is the picture of what God is offering when he sent Jesus. Jesus came to rescue us from the downward spiral of our lives and of a world that's just more and more messed up by us. At the cross, Jesus dies an innocent man, showing just how messed up our world is. Look at verse 14. He, that's Jesus, gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to cleanse for himself a people for his own possession, eager to do good works. Jesus died instead of us. We deserved the punishment of death, but he took it for us. It's but grace, you see? And he doesn't just stay dead. He's raised to life, and in his kindness, he gives us not a second chance, but a new life that's washed and that's for doing good with. Grace is beginning to undo the mess. If you haven't put your trust in Jesus, can I encourage you to think this over, to put your trust in him? If you know all too well that this world is in a bad way, if you know that your life is in a bad way, then the next step that you need to take is to put your trust in Jesus. I want to urge you to take that step. Perhaps you're watching today and this is the grace that you've put your trust in, and it's really exciting. Praise God. Rejoice in it. Be thankful for it, that this undeserved kindness that we've received. If you're watching today and you're weighed down by sin because you've been struggling, it seems like sin's getting the upper hand, you feel like you've failed again, what can you do? Well, we look back at the cross of Jesus, as we see the ultimate proof that God knows our struggle and yet he still loves us. He wants us to be overwhelmed by the grace that he's shown on the cross and to be able to rest, confident that even while we were his enemies, Jesus died for us. And it's also important how the gospel motto here in Titus chapter 2 is the motto of what God is doing, what he's doing. He's in control and he's powerful enough to finish what he starts. Unlike me, I can't even finish the food on my plate sometimes, but that's just me. And so grace appears, grace rescues, but it also instructs. We're going to think about this and see it in the passage that God is sending his grace to us that we might be rescued from our old broken way of life and begin a new pattern of life that grows us to be like him. Look at it here in verse 12 with me. So the grace of God appears instructing us to deny godlessness and worldly lusts and to live in a sensible, righteous, and godly way in the present age. So grace helps us understand what is broken about our lives and our world. Grace helps us understand what the new life looks like. Grace is like an instruction manual for how to live for God. It's by grace and it's with grace, and it's the motto that we can live by. Grace doesn't just save us, grace changes us. And something so game-changing as God's grace appearing at the cross means that there's no way that we can't be changed by it. As the Christian life begins with grace, it continues with grace. The more we grasp grace, the more we see the beauty of God's character and the ugliness of sin. The more we grasp grace, the more we understand the bitterness of living just for me. and more of the joy of laying down our lives for others. The more we grasp grace in Jesus laying down his life for us, we see the depths of our old life and the incredible example of love that we are called to follow in. Have you noticed that this passage started and ended with Paul saying to Titus, say these things that are consistent with sound teaching? It makes us ask, doesn't it? What are these things? What are the things that are consistent with sound teaching? Sometimes it's quite hard to work out what a thing is, but the things on view here are the patterns that define the new life that we've been rescued for and changed for. And these things, these patterns, they come in all shapes and sizes. And so in chapter 1 last week, we saw that the gospel-shaped life is not just essential for leaders of God's church, but it's actually the pattern for everyone who trusts in Jesus. The pattern is sometimes the same for different people, but sometimes it's different because different people, right? So let's jump in and have a look from verse 2. Older men are to be level-headed, worthy of respect, sensible and sound in faith, love, and endurance. In the same way, older women are to be reverent in behaviour, not slanderers, not addicted to much wine. They are to teach what is good, so they may encourage the young women to love their husbands and to love their children, to be self-controlled, pure, homemakers, kind, and submissive to their husbands, so that God's message will not be slandered. In the same way, encourage the young men to be self-controlled in everything. Make yourself an example of good works with integrity and dignity in your teaching. Your message is to be sound beyond reproach, so that the opponent will be ashamed, having nothing bad to say about us. Slaves are to be submissive to their masters in everything and to be well-pleasing, not talking back or stealing, but demonstrating utter faithfulness, so that they may adorn the teaching of our God and Saviour in everything. So the gospel-shaped life we see here, it comes in all shapes and sizes. It's for people in different seasons of life and as men and women. And even if you feel like these aren't your particular circumstances, all of us are called to live out the impact of the grace of God. And, this is important, difference matters. And we are different, aren't we? God's made us different. He's given us different circumstances. He's made us to complement each other in our relationships, family, community, and work. And it's actually all part of God's good design. Now, is it just me, or is it super satisfying to look at this well-packed truck? Haven't they done an amazing job? I don't know why they had the time to do that. It's incredibly satisfying to see things that are pretty different shapes and sizes fit together well. And yet it's helpful to see that there's similarities as well. To start verses 3 and 6, we see that while there are different ways that we relate, there's a similarity, the way he uses, in the same way. One way you see the similarity is in the parallel way that the older generations, both men and women, are to mentor the younger. We remember the description given to the men who were to be serving by leading in chapter 1. They too were to encourage with sound teaching, which is the same as how Titus, right here in this passage in chapter 2, is to relate to the young men, presumably as an older man himself. And the older women are to relate to the younger women in verse 4. There's a shared role of being mentors, isn't there? That's a parallel, that's a similarity. So why don't we dig in? And men, let's start with us. Verse 2. Older men, you are to be level-headed, worthy of respect, sensible, sound in faith, love, and endurance. Firstly, men, is this what you think of when you think of masculinity? Can you see that God is showing us something of what it means to be a man, and our masculinity isn't about being Chuck Norris, being tough as nails? This is what masculinity is. Serving, that's strength. Loving people when it's hard, that's toughness. Now, we don't have the time to look in detail at every characteristic mentioned, but I'll try and pick one as I can. And so, older guys, and I'll just leave a comment alone about feeling old. Why do you think endurance is mentioned? I feel like as guys, we often love a thrill. We get a kick out of some short-term adrenaline, but it's not always very glamorous to be in it for the long term, is it? But there is gain in sticking at loving Jesus, running the long race, keeping up the desire to grow, learn, love, to take up responsibility. It is a slog, but it's worth it. If you were in an endurance sport event, you'd need to be topped up with electrolytes or fuel of some kind, wouldn't you? Whether that's the Le Mans 24-hour or the Dakar Rally or a marathon or a hike. To finish it all or to finish strong, even better, you need to be fueled. How are we going to fuel each other? That's what we want to be doing here at Hope, fueling each other for the long haul. So how can you stay fueled up? And young guys, let's have a look at verse 6. In the same way, encourage the young men to be self-controlled in everything. Don't you think it's amazing that young guys haven't changed much in the last 2,000 years? The one thing that we still need to hear, self-control. And I thought I'd tell you a little bit about Harry. Harry is my youth group leader from the church that I grew up in. He's a farmer. He's a really down-to-earth guy, and he gave me a lot of his time, and I looked up to him. I particularly benefited from Harry, the way that he encouraged me to take seriously self-control, particularly in the areas of sexuality and purity. He took it seriously, and he wanted me and the other young guys to take it seriously. And for me, it was a formational moment in my walk with God, as I had someone who thought that this serious stuff was worth living out. He wasn't perfect, and he was quick to say so. And when I chatted to him on the phone this week in preparation for today, he said that he didn't feel like a particularly encouraging person, but I think that just goes to show that we don't always know the impact that we have on others. So young guys, I know that it's easy to think that it's a bit complicated or it's a bit pointless just trying, but if it's not, and it doesn't make sense to live just however we want, deciding that what feels good is right, because that's the very life that God has saved us from. Well, ladies, what about you guys? Verse 3 and 4, let me read. In the same way, older women are to be reverent in behaviour, not slanderers, not addicted to much wine. They are to teach what is good, so they may encourage the young women to love their husbands and to love their children, to be self-controlled, pure, homemakers, kind, and submissive to their husbands, so that God's message will not be slandered. The older women at Hope, can I urge you to grow in purposefulness and intentionality in mentoring the younger women here at Hope? Maybe other people who are young in your life as well. It's really a vital role that we play in someone's life and walk. You can do it through walking alongside them, doing life together, sharing with each other. You know how in many families, there's often grandparents who have more time and a desire to invest in their grandkids? Younger people often respond really well to having older people take interest in them, and it's a really special and precious thing. And don't those kind of relationships between generations actually find their home here in our church family at Hope? Mentoring, teaching, modelling, showing what the grace of God means for being a woman in Christ. And young women, can I urge you to listen and receive input from the older women amongst us as a way for you to be living out the gospel. It can be exciting to invent and discover our own way, but God has given us older women given you older women in your life, and especially in this church. God, out of his grace, has given them to you. How good is that? This is all part of God's good design. And this good design is the same as with husbands and wives. And didn't Luther help us see that in Ephesians back in term 1? And I want to just echo what he noted for us there, that the Bible's picture of wives submitting to their husbands has no place for abuse and violence. It's not okay. And last week, Cam reminded us that men and women have the same worth and dignity and value in God's eyes, but in his good purposes, he's given us different shape, different roles to play. It's not backward, it's Godward. And I'm so thankful for the leadership and the staff team here and the way that they lead in this stuff and their commitment to care for our church community. And I know that it makes me want to play my part, and I want to be able to help that we might bring glory to God. Lastly, the passage addresses slaves, which is not directly talking about your workplace, although it might seem like it. There's still some really valuable principles here. So let's just read verse 9 together. Slaves are to be submissive to their masters in everything, and to be well-pleasing, not talking back or stealing, but demonstrating utter faithfulness, so that they may adorn the teaching of God our Saviour in everything. Well, there are two quick things I'd like to highlight here. Can you see that there's no boundaries to where our changed life reaches? The grace of God reaches every part of our lives, even the hardest places we can live out our changed lives. And you know here that the submission is different to marriage, right? The wife submits to her husband as a picture of the gospel, but the slave is more opportunistic. Even when he doesn't have to, he can submit and adorn the gospel. Why would they do that? Because they're so captivated by the gospel that it overflows into every aspect of their life. Because God hasn't done the bare minimum with us, has he? So can't this shape our workplaces too? Don't you think it's easy to have a work me and a home me? I used to feel this sometimes at my own workplace as a policy analyst in the past, obviously under normal conditions rather than working from home. But if we live out the grace-shaped life, the grace-shaped me, the grace-shaped you, in all areas of our life, we communicate just how profound the impact God's grace is. Can we look at one last verse together? Verse 13. Listen out for what's ahead, because we don't just live looking back at what Jesus did on the cross, but we also look forward. So verse 13, we live lives that while we wait for the blessed hope and appearing of the glory of our great God and Saviour, Jesus Christ. We live waiting. We're living in the middle. We live cross-eyed. We live looking backwards at the cross, and we live looking forward. We look back at the cross and see the incredible, game-changing grace that God uses to teach us to live. And we look forward to his return. You remember this from the end of Isaiah? The sound of weeping and crying will no longer be heard. Because on that day, we will see Jesus face to face. And that day will come. But today we live in the middle, don't we? Each and every day we are taught by the grace of God, by what it's done, what it's doing, and where it's taking us. We live taught by grace. Let's pray. Creator God, please help us to grasp how awesome and transformative your grace is. We want to be changed by it. In Jesus' name, amen.